And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. Today we're going to answer a very, very, very important question. The question is, how much should business owners pay for a house? You're like, Justin, that doesn't seem that important. Aha, contraire, my friend. You see, out of this answer stems your success. Do you realize there is no other single purchase which determines your savings rate than the house you purchase? There's no other single purchase. Yes, your house, the location of which you choose to live, is the greatest determination of your success. You said, Justin, I think it was your income. Perhaps, but more than likely, the more income you make, the more house you buy. So we're going to talk about how much should we pay for a house. Over Christmas, I was reading the Constitution of the United States. I read it a couple of times through with a highlighter in my hand just so I could understand and be clear on what it says and what it doesn't say. There was a lot of things in the media in late 2020, early 21 that talks about this is unconstitutional or this is constitutional. I'm not a constitutional attorney by no means, but I at least want to understand what they're referring to. And as I read through the Constitution, one particular clause in the preamble, believe it or not, caught my eyes, and it has resonated in my head. So I want to read you the preamble of the Constitution. Maybe you can quote it like myself. As we read this, or as you remember this, I want you to think about this one clause. It says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare." I love that statement, but that's not it. Promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. The blessings of liberty. To ourselves and our posterity do ordain and establish this the Constitution of the United States. The blessings of liberty. The blessings of liberty. You know, with freedom comes blessings. The blessings of liberty. I love the way they frame that particular set of words. Perhaps there's nothing that can be seen more when it comes to the blessings of liberty than the, quote, American dream. The American dream. People move near and far to the United States to participate in the American dream. This idea that we can do anything we want, become who we want to be, and no one is going to hold us down. That if we think it, we can make it happen, this dream that we all have. Perhaps the icon of this dream is the house. The house. In fact, 84% of Americans said that buying a house is a priority to them. Now, they were interviewing individuals who did not own a house at this point back in 2019, and they said that 84% of Americans at that time said buying a house is a priority to them, and it had been increasing over the years. The same survey estimated that nearly 100 million Americans, almost a third of the population of America, was planning on purchasing a house in the next 5 years. Now, that was including those who were going to sell and move, et cetera, but it's still 100 million Americans. 27 million were planning on buying a house in the next 12 months. The survey was done in early 2019. I found another survey that says, or another statistic that says 89% of millennials want to move out of their grandparents' basements or their mom and dad's basements. No, it doesn't say that. It says 89% of millennials want to own a house. I say that with levity because of all the media attention that's been given with millennials living in their basements. I don't buy in half of what's been said, but nonetheless, that's what's out there. 55% of Americans said the reason why they want to buy a house is because they feel like it's a good investment. And perhaps it could be, depending on when you buy it. Perhaps it could be. But then there's a yet. Out of those individuals who's purchased a house, 29% said they felt less financially secure than before they bought it. 29%, almost 30% of Americans who bought a house said they felt worse financially than before they bought the house. So that leads to a question. How much of a house notice how I say that word, can we afford? How much of a house can a business owner afford? Well, there's two ways you can determine this. You have two different types of ratios. One is called the front-end ratio, or they call it the housing ratio, and it's going to take into account all of your housing-related expenses. Okay, it's going to bring in your mortgage payment, your taxes, your homeowner's insurance, or any type of homeowner's association fee. It's going to take that and divide it by your monthly income and then multiply it by 100. So, for example, let's say you make $6,000 a month and I'm doing simple math here, and your expenses are $1,800 a month. That means that you have roughly a 30% ratio that you can afford. So roughly 30% is your is what your debt to income ratio could be. There's a back-end ratio, which is a pure debt to income. This is what a lot of institutions will utilize. Basically, it's going to look at how much income do you have to cover all of your monthly debts. And monthly debts could be including your mortgage, obviously, but credit cards, auto loans, student loans, other consumer debts like store loans. It could be child support. It could be a number of things. Student loans ends up causing a lot of problems right now. So to determine the back-end ratio, you add up all your monthly debts, every debt that you have, right? And then you divide by your monthly gross income. So let's say that you have a car loan at $500, maybe a student loan, pretty common, is about $100, $150, let's say $150. And let's say you have $200 a month toward a credit card. So let's say that all comes up to $850. If you combine that with your $1,800 per month housing budget that you're anticipating, it means that you can get roughly $2,650 in total monthly debts. So based on your income, your back-end ratio would be roughly 44%. So there's a general rule that falls between 28 to 36. It depends on where you're at. If you're calculating the front-end ratio, it's roughly about 28%. That's when you'll hear that term as you begin doing research, that there's a 28% number. If you're doing the back-end ratio, you don't want to go any higher than 36. So there's a spread there between, as bankers calculate this, your affordability, they'll say, yes, you can afford 28% of your income on just the house, or no more than 36% of your income on all monthly debts. Now, when banks move away from those is when we run into problems. So let's say that you have $6,000 a month. That means your maximum monthly mortgage could be, if you're taking $6,000 times 28%, is roughly $1,680. If you calculate all your debts at 36%, that means that you cannot have any more debt total than $2,160. And this is why I don't like consumer debt. I'd rather have debt on a hard asset that appreciates in value. You see, if we have car debts or student loan debts or credit card debts or consumer debt that appears on our credit report, even judgments from the courthouse, those will limit our eligibility to buy a house. They could limit the size of the house or the amount to which lenders could use. And so reality, depending on your credit score, of course, how much you have in your income flow provides the lenders with how much house you can afford. Where it gets interesting, though, is how much should you afford? How much should you afford? And we talked about how much can you afford, but how much should you afford? I'm going to keep this super simple. As small of a house as possible for you to achieve your goals or dreams. Let me say it again. We want to buy as small as a house as possible for you to achieve your goals or dreams. You know, as business owners, we reach success, whatever defines success in your particular world. As you gain success, maybe it's through income, maybe it's through net worth, maybe it's through liquid assets, whatever it is in your definition, as we reach success, it's not uncommon for the spender to come out. You know, after all, we business owners are the ones who spent 5, 10, 15 years, eating mashed potatoes and gravy. Nothing wrong with that. I love me some mashed potatoes and gravy. But we weren't living the same lifestyle as many employees. In fact, we were often paid our employees more than we paid ourselves in order to reach success. Now, many people don't know that. They don't see that. I can remember in my own business. So I started the company in 2009, the company Heritage Investors and Heritage Business Advisors. They were followed after, so did Financially Simple. But I started Heritage Investors in 2009. And from 2009 until recent years, let me tell you, it was hard to make ends meet. Worked countless hours, sometimes 70, 80 hours a week, just putting in to grow a business. And yet now people look and say, man, you're successful. And I'm like, if you only knew the iceberg underneath the water, friends. And many people don't realize that. Many people they say it and they kind of know it, but they don't really realize the struggle. And as a business owner, you're saying, man, Justin, I'm with you. That struggle, holy cow. Yeah, people see the tip of the iceberg. They don't see all the crap that I dealt with for a decade underneath this. And yeah, I feel successful right now, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy a really big house. Yeah, I've heard that. And candidly, I even thought that. Whenever Emily and I bought our property and we built our house, we were looking at house plans, and we were sitting here looking at house plans that were 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, even 7,000 square foot, 7,000 square foot. Can you imagine cleaning that thing? And we ultimately settled on a house about just over 1,800 square foot. Just a little, I consider small, because my previous house, I was making a lot of money. I went out and bought almost a 5,000 square foot house. So we bought a little house. But why did we do that? Because we want to buy as small a house as possible to achieve our goals or dreams. But why does it matter? You see, with a house, the house controls much, if not almost all, of your expenses. Let me illustrate. The size of your house, the type of house, the structure, the size, the layout, the materials, the neighborhood, the zip code, all these things factor into your insurance premiums. If you have a house that's made out of brick, different insurance rate than one that's made out of stucco. If you have a house that's in a metropolitan area with fire and water and rescue, maybe even a fire hydrant up front, it's going to have a different insurance risk and a different insurance premium than one that's in the country like where I live. So your house, location, size, shape controls the insurance premiums. It also controls your utilities. The bigger the house, the more utilities you're going to have. But you may actually be in a location, not only the size of the house, but the location might only afford you to have non-natural gas. You may have to use propane versus natural gas for heating. You may not be able to get either gas or propane, and you have to use wood to heat your location. You may have electricity. Believe it or not, at our house, and I don't think we're really far in the woods, we can't even get phone service where we're at. We have to use cell phones, which doesn't bother me. I like that. But utilities matter. The type of the house structure is going to determine your utility bill. If you're well insulated, if it's modern, this may end up having lower utility bills than one that may be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years old. I know whenever we built ours extremely energy efficient. And I think the largest power bill we've ever had is like about $130. It's not much, because the house size and the shape and the utilities matter. The taxes that you pay, not just your house taxes, but the taxes of your life are located by your house. If you build a house, obviously it's going to directly affect what your property taxes are, but what if you build it in Tennessee, where we do not have any state employment tax or state income tax, compared to New York State, where you do have state income tax? What happens if you build it in a county to which has a different tax? Maybe the location of the house is taxed for some sort of a ad valorem rate. There's a number of different things that you could deal with on taxes just by the location and the size. Your maintenance and repairs are going to vary based on the location of the house. If you live in an area that is a higher cost of living, then your maintenance expenses are going to be higher. If you have a house location that is a lower cost to live, then they're going to be lower. If you have a house that's made out of brick, then your maintenance may be a lot less than one made out of, let's say, vinyl, or you have to paint consistently. Did you realize that even your commuting, the car you own, or the transportation, the way you commute, is determined by where you're located? I have friends who lived in a very expensive part of New York, but they did never own a car. They used a bicycle, so their commuting was relatively cheap. Whereas where I live, I literally drive 45 minutes each way to get to the office or wherever we need to go. We live in the country, so our commuting is more expensive for us. The cost of school comes into play. Yes, you could be in a location to where you have very poor government schools, and therefore you want to use a private institution for the education of your kids. Or you could go the opposite direction. Maybe you're in an area that has really good government schools, but because of the status of those schools, your children end up wanting to spend more money for the lifestyle they live through there. Your shopping is obviously going to be different. Can't trust me, we can shop at a Kroger's and a Walmart where I live. I wish a Bass Pro was really close, but if a Bass Pro was within walking distance, I'd spend a lot more money. So your location is determined by your shopping. The influence on your life. The way that the cars you buy is directly impacted by the people that you associate with. I live with farming country. We have farming style cars. If I lived in the suburbs, and that'd be the alternative for me personally, I think, then I would end up having maybe more of an SUV style family. If I lived on the coast, I'd end up buying boats so I could go fishing. If I lived far in the woods, I may end up having some horses or things of that nature. They're just going to influence the way I live, like my cars. Imagine walking out in your neighborhood and everybody drives a Bentley and you're the one driving a Ford Pinto. Yeah, you're going to change that Pinto, right? The clothes we wear are affected by the community in which we live. I dress like a country boy. I wear blue jeans. I wear untucked bowler shirts. In fact, today, if you're looking at me on the YouTube channel, I actually have a what is this thing, like a Carhartt, like a canvas vest on. It has a pointer bird dog on it. It's a Southern style look. I like it. I'm wearing some deck shoes today in the office. That's who I am. That's how I dress. But if I were in New York City, or if I were in Chicago, or if I were working in downtown Knoxville at a big law firm, I'd probably be in a suit and tie. And I wouldn't just have any other suit and tie. I'd probably have French cuffs on. I'd wear a white shirt with a red power tie and a blue suit. That's just who I am. So the way I dress, the expenses are determined by where I live. My kids would be influenced by where we live, what sports they play. We don't play a lot of sports. We play with animals, and we get involved in 4-H and things of that nature, and raising and selling and doing different things. But if they were in a local school, they may be on the lacrosse team, or maybe they're dealing with some other event. So my expenses of lifestyle are going to be determined by where I live. So the question is, how much house should we afford? As little as possible to reach our specific dreams and goals. You said, Justin, man, you're kind of weird. No, I wanted to live in the country. That's my dream. I wanted to be able to walk out and not see another house. I wanted to be able to sit in my kitchen table and watch deer feed in the backyard. That's who I am. I want to be able to come to the office, bust it out, enjoy people that I work with and the people that I have the honor and privilege to serve. And then whenever I get in the truck and head home, I'm driving away from it to paradise. And that's how I live. So we built a lifestyle around that particular dream. Now, your dream doesn't have to be my dream. But when it comes to this thing of housing, we must be careful. Many times we'll have business owners that engage our company, Heritage Investors, or Heritage Business Advisors, and they'll say, hey, I need help. I'm broke. Before I finish that story, let's hear a word from this week's sponsor.
If we had learned anything from recent events, it would be the importance of having a personal financial plan to weather any crisis life throws at us. Heritage Investors helps small business owners to reach their financial goals with holistic wealth management services. Learn how by visiting heritageinvestor.com today.
So we'll have people engage Heritage Investors and they'll say, guys, I feel like I'm broke. I make a lot of money. I have a lot of income in my business. My business is producing $3, $4, $5 million a year. I feel I can see that I'm making $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 on my taxes, but I am broke. Help. And I often make the statement: in order to affect the future, we must disturb the present. In order to affect the future, we must disrupt. We must disturb the present. I've literally sat across the table from people and said, "You need to sell your house. It's too big. Your location is too big. You went house poor," is what we would say. So friends, as we come out of COVID, as these individuals who want to buy a house, as business owners who maybe have reaching success with their own lives, let's realize that even though the bank or even though the mortgage company will provide us a lot more money to buy that house that we can afford, let's be very frugal and ever vigilant and making sure that we're only buying the house that we should afford. Friends, 2021 is going to be awesome. It's an opportunity abounds everywhere. I'm amazed every single day about how much opportunity that I have the honor and the fortune to participate in. Opportunity is everywhere. We're going to continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Y'all make it a great day. This tip is for informational purposes only. Please speak with a competent financial advisor regarding your specific needs. Justin Goodbread is a registered investment advisor with Heritage Investors. Visit heritageinvestor.com, financiallysimple.com for additional information.